It is Thursday, April 8th, 7 p.m. here in Washington, D.C., and I'd like to welcome you to tonight's edition of Nation's Pastime in the nation's capital, WCUA's only baseball-centric talk show. I'm your host, Andrew Snaith, here with my co-hosts, James Higgins and Robbie Cruz. James joining us virtually tonight. James, can you hear us? How are you doing? Having a little technical problems. We're going to get James on in just a second, but while we work on that, thank you all so much for tuning in tonight here on WCUA Radio. Of course, this Nation's Pastime and Nation's Capital. We are live a little bit after 7 every single Thursday night until around 8 p.m. Just a quick announcement, though, before we get going with the show, is next week we will have a special exception to that standard, and we will be having our show at 7 p.m. on Wednesday evening. So if you want to tune into that, go ahead and do it 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time next Wednesday instead of Thursday, if you want your weekly dose of Nation's Pastime in the nation's capital. So, on today's show, of course, we're gonna work on getting James on here in just a second as well, but I'm gonna go ahead and explain a little bit of a different format while we work on that. And we're gonna be testing a little bit of a new process here of different segments on the show. Now, some of these segments are going to be completely weekly based. We're gonna do them every single week. And some of them we're going to switch on and off, and we're going to do them depending on, I guess, when the mood calls for them. So hopefully that'll be an interesting little change here for the show, give you a little more to look forward to, a little more idea of what to expect on a weekly basis.
It's going to be a great season.
Absolutely. That's the big thing, of course, we got to remember here. A week into the regular season, it feels great to be back. We said it 2 weeks ago before Easter. It's just so good to have 162 games and to be able to experience the glory that is a full baseball season. And we're going to have a lot of topics focusing on that tonight as well. So, let's go ahead and get into that first segment here, and that is going to be news around the league. And what that is going to take a look at is exactly what it says. We're going to take a look at some of the biggest news stories from around the week, and we're going to get the opinions of the people here on NPNC, see what they think, and give some cool stats as well. And just a reminder, if you do want to call in at all during any segment during tonight's show, that number is 202-319-5106. That's 202-319-5106. So, Robbie, I do think that we have some interesting news stories here in the first week of the season. Wouldn't you say so?
Absolutely. The game of baseball always has news that is going on. Folks, there have been plenty of rumors. However, something that did happen this past week that nobody's talking about is Roughned Odor getting traded to the New York Yankees. Roughned Odor, the man, the myth, the legend, the man who hit 176 last season. The man's got power. The man has a solid glove out at second base. The Yankees got him for 2 prospects, and the Rangers are taking on his entire contract.
And we're going to talk about that trade and much more here in just a second. We're going to take a quick break here on Nation's Pastime and Nation's Capital, work out some technical difficulties, and we'll be right back with you. Stay tuned. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for sticking with us here. We hope that we have the issues fixed now. Doing it virtually in the year 2021 here. It's got its challenges, but we're making it work here on Nation's Pastime and the Nation's Capital. We're going to get right into that the first news segment. We were talking about the trade with Roughned Odor, and we have some other exciting ones. Before we get into that, though, James, can you hear us now? All right, looking like we're still having some technical difficulties there. We're going to work that out, though. We're going to get James on the air later in this show, but we're going to go right ahead into that news segment until he can join us. So, Robbie, I think we should start talking off just briefly about this Roughned Odor trade, because I got to say, when I saw the news article that said he was officially traded to the Yankees for basically nothing, I was a little shocked that the Yankees wanted him. Why don't you walk us through why Roughned Odor is now a Yankee?
Roughned Odor is now a Yankee because I believe the Yankees don't have faith in Derek Dietrich as their backup second baseman. My guess is that they were looking for a power-hitting second baseman who could take advantage of the short porch in right field. Derek Dietrich did not look good in spring training, and they need a second baseman in case DJ LeMahieu goes down with an injury. Tyler Wade, he's not the guy. The Yankees can't trust him as a backup, and I think that what they're looking to do is that they are looking for a solid backup behind DJ LeMahieu. So Roughned Odor has so much potential because he's only 26 years of age. He's shown in the past that he can hit for average. He can limit the strikeouts a little bit in the passes we've seen, and he's got a solid Gold Glove. Now, if Roughned Odor can be what the Yankees think he is, I think that this is a great trade for the Yankees because, like you said, they only gave up 2 prospects to get him.
Well, not only that, but the fact that the Rangers are paying virtually his entire salary is just, it's stunning. It shows you how much Texas has given up on a guy who they thought was going to be a core piece of that team for years to come. Obviously, almost none of their pieces worked out, and they're a shell of their former selves and what they thought they would be. But you still think you keep a guy around who has name value like that for the fans. I mean, especially got Globe Life Park for the first times with fan in it. They had over 100% capacity. You think you'd keep guys like this to keep fans coming back, but no, they shipped him off for virtually nothing.
Yeah, and I think that they did that because they simply just gave up on the guy. I don't think that they would have really gotten much else for Roughned Odor, if I'm being honest. I think the market for Odor was extremely slim. I don't think that he had any teams that were begging for his services because if you think about it,
do you blame them?
No. What does Roughned Odor bring to the table? I don't
Nothing.
know exactly. He brings absolutely nothing to the table. However, like I said earlier, the dude has potential. That's why the Yankees are getting him, because of potential. They are a fine baseball team right now. They can probably send Roughned Odor to the minors for a few weeks, get him some swings in. Let's see how he does. Maybe he shows up in good shape. Maybe maybe he hits 260, 270 in the minors, comes up to the MLB in case one of their infielders gets injured, and he's a solid backup. Roughned Odor is not going to be an everyday player for the Yankees unless somebody gets hurt. And a lot of Yankee fans are frustrated with this trade because they're like, why are we getting somebody of Roughned Odor's talents? Because the guy's absolute garbage. The guy is an absolute atrocity at the plate. He's an embarrassment. He's a disgrace. He's 6 feet tall and strikes out 190 times a year. However, he does have potential. I think that's what the Yankees see. They don't care about the strikeouts. The Yankees led the league in strikeouts last season. They got Giancarlo Stanton, who strikes out a lot. Aaron Judge strikes out a lot. Gary Sanchez strikes out a lot. Luke Voigt struck out a lot. And the problem is that they have another strikeout batter. But they don't care about that. They like the power in Roughned Odor.
Very good points indeed. Moving on to around the league, I think the biggest piece of news that everyone is talking about is Fernando Tatis Jr. and the scare that happened on Monday night's game. In case you missed it, Tatis has a partial dislocation of his left shoulder. It happened while he was swinging through a pitch during Monday's game. Now, originally, this scare was a lot more than it is right now because people thought he could miss significant time or all of the season because of the surgery he will need. But general manager A.J. Preller came out and said the other day that he will not need surgery. They put him on the 10-day DL, and he hopefully will be back within those 10 games. But I gotta say, this to me is the exact perfect example of what I said, I believe it was 3 weeks ago when he signed that extension. And this is a perfect example of why you don't give $340 million to a young man who hasn't played 162 games.
Now, I understand why you said that because, like you said, he hasn't played 162 games. There's so much question with Fernando Tatis Jr. However, he's worth the money. I've made that argument, and I understand. He got injured right now. However, that's a freak injury. This isn't an injury that's going to linger over time. This isn't a torn ACL. This isn't a torn Achilles. This isn't a torn MCL. This is in his wrist. If you have a wrist injury, that's not something to be concerned about as a major league team. He's going to be A-okay.
Here's the thing, though. This is more than his wrist, though. This is his left shoulder, and this is something he missed time during spring training for because they were concerned about. This is a lingering issue that has affected him 2 times now. And I'm not saying, look, Fernando Tatis Jr. is one of the most talented players in baseball. I'm not disputing that. But talent doesn't translate into being worth $340 million. How many times have we seen talented players sign mega deals and it be a terrible deal at the end?
You're trying to tell me that because he hurt his shoulder on a swing, it's a bad deal?
I'm not saying it's a bad deal because of this injury. I'm saying this injury is the perfect example of why you don't do crazy stuff like this right off the bat. Let the young man have a full season. Guess what? Worst case scenario is he has a really good season and you pay him, maybe $350 or $60 million? At that point, you were going to sign him anyway, so it's worth it. And I could be wrong, and he could be the greatest shortstop to ever play the game when he's done these 14 years, but to me, it's too much of a risk, and I don't like the move.
I just don't see a correlation between this injury and the contract.
No, I'm not saying this injury. I'm saying this injury is an example of why you shouldn't do this, because, like I said when I broke the news story, this could have been much worse and was projected to be much worse when he first got hurt. And that sent everyone on a panic who was a fan of the Padres and also the fan of baseball because, since he's now apparently the face of baseball and everything.
Oh no, I don't understand why fans think that he's a fan.
I don't agree
I think
with
it's ridiculous.
that either, no, but that's a discussion for a different day. Let's move on to the next news segment here. We got two more. This one's a real fun one. According to Jason Beck of MLB.com, no player in modern history has hit a grand slam, an additional home run, and a walk-off hit in his first 3 games, except for one young man who did it this week, and that man's name is Akil Badoo. This guy was drafted by the Twins originally in 2016 and then was taken as a Rule 5 pick by the Tigers last year in 2020, and he is having an unbelievable first season. I got to say, watching him in spring training, I mean, he gave the Phillies some problems when we were seeing the Tigers play at I believe it's, what are we at now, Baycare Ballpark? The ballpark's changed 3 different times, but he's an impressive young man. He's done a lot over his first week to make his name known, especially on a Tigers team that's rather unremarkable. And I got to know, Robbie, do you think, well, I do think it's going to happen, but I'm going to ask you how long until the legend of Akil Badoo fizzles out?
Oh. See, so do you not believe in this guy?
I didn't say I don't believe in him. I just, obviously, this is a pace that's not going to be kept up.
I'd probably agree with that. See, here's my thing with him. He came up as a top prospect. A lot of fans really like this guy, and they see a lot of potential. The Tigers, when it came to trades, they were never willing to trade this guy, which obviously makes sense because they're not competing.
What, Badoo?
Yeah.
You're talking about, no, Badoo was a Rule 5 pick.
I'm sorry. Not that.
Yeah.
But my point is that
I see what you're saying. There.
Yeah.
In the past.
Yeah, the Tigers really like this guy, and they see something in him. I'm going to say that he could be a Yasiel Puig 2.0.
Okay.
He's going to come up.
Wow.
He's going to come up. He's going to play really well, and then after a year and a half, I think he's going to fade off.
I like it very much. And just a quick reminder, if you want to call in at all during any part of these segments, that number is 202-319-5106. That's 202-319-5106. And right now, we think we have those technical difficulties sorted out. We're going to try for a third time to get James on the air here because I want to ask him on his opinions on this Akil Badoo guy. So, James, can you hear us?
What's up, guys? Can you hear me?
James, there you are, buddy.
Hey.
How are you?
Doing well. Sorry about that, guys.
No problem at all. We're glad you're on the show here. And if you heard that question I just asked, I got to know, when do you think the legend of Akil Badoo fizzles out here in 2021?
I'll give it another month.
Give it another month?
It's 2020. It's 2020-2021. Weird things happen. It's a great story. He's staying hot right now. We'll see what happens. I'll give it another month. All
right.
Because even if he fizzles out, he'll still make some dramatic player hit some dramatic walk-off that the legend of Akil Badoo will continue to grow.
And, I got to say, the name adds to the legend.
Exactly.
What a fantastic baseball name. Just absolutely
I'm just
wonderful.
happy for the guy. Another guy I want to talk about, Yermin Mercedes.
Yes.
Hit a 485-foot bomb today. Started 8 for 8, the best start to the season in the modern era. What an incredible story for the Chicago White Sox.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but this guy has been around. He's not like a young, new guy. He's been bouncing around teams.
Yeah, in the minors.
Yeah, in the minors.
Yeah.
He's a career minor leaguer, and then all of a sudden, I guess he's just figured out the major leagues.
I think he's like 20. I think he's like 29 years old.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, he's been around a while. Yeah, he's bounced around, but good for him. That's a great story for the White Sox, and hopefully he can continue, especially with the loss of Eloy Jimenez.
Well, I was just going to say, with Eloy Jimenez out, you need someone to step up on that team if they are going to fulfill the predictions and win that AL Central. And I got to tell you something, if Mercedes can do that, that would be huge for the Chicago White Sox. One final news piece here before we get into our next segment. We got to talk about the Oakland A's here because we have someone here in this studio who thought the Oakland A's were a shoo-in for the American League West. And hey,
Who?
we're only 6 games in. But I need to point out the fact that the box score from the last time the Oakland A's started 0-6 to a season, the opposing pitcher was Babe Ruth of the Boston Red Sox, and the second baseman for the A's was Nap LaJoie.
Who are you?
So
wait, Andrew, I got to know.
Yeah, go ahead.
Wait, who are you talking about that was hyping up the A's?
I believe it was someone by the name of Robbie Cruz.
I never hyped up the A's.
You never hyped up the A's?
No.
James, I seem to recall Robbie hyping up the A's a little bit after that Rosenthal signing.
Yeah, he said they were the team that was the biggest threat in the AL to the Yankees.
I did not say that, okay? This is what I said. I said the Oakland Athletics, if they can't stay healthy and if players play to their capabilities, they are going to be the biggest threat to the New York Yankees. However, I said that the Tampa Bay Rays were the biggest threat to the Yankees face forward right then and there. Now, I understand right now it's not looking good for Oakland. I don't know what's going on with Trevor Rosenthal. The pitching's been...
Well, he's hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. The pitching's been an absolute disgrace. It's been embarrassing. The lineup sucks. There's not a single good thing about that Oakland Athletics baseball team right now. They're an absolute aberration to the game of baseball. They might be the worst team in baseball because nobody's playing well on that team right now.
No, everyone is looking bad, and like you said, their big signing that they got to replace Liam Hendricks this year was Trevor Rosenthal, and with the news that his surgery could have a 12-week recovery time, I don't know, James. How worried are we about the Oakland A's and their pursuit of the playoffs this year?
Well, very worried, especially with the hot start of the Astros and the Angels. I mean, it's a competitive division already at the top, and digging themselves into a hole this early in the season, they're not doing themselves any favors. I think the Astros are out on a mission to prove that they are a team that can do it without cheating. I think we know the talent that they have on their team, Alex Bregman, Jose Altuve, Carlos Correa, all that, and they've gotten off to a really hot start, and honestly, I don't see them slowing down anytime soon.
Yeah, and I will say, briefly touching on the Astros, we were wondering if fans would forget what happened in 2019 when they were allowed back in the stands this year. Gentlemen, I don't think they forgot given the events in both Oakland and Los Angeles this past weekend. If you're not aware, in Los Angeles at the Angels game this past weekend, there were some inflatable trash cans thrown on the field. Of course, a reference to the banging of trash cans that occurred during the 2019 season and maybe some other seasons, but we won't talk about that. And then, of course, we had the song, I don't know who the artist is by, so please forgive me, but the Next Time That He Cheats song played as they took the field in Oakland. A very hilarious and savage move by the people who were running the booth up there in Oakland. I don't know, guys. You love to see stuff like this. It shows you that not only have the fans not forgot, but these teams have not forgotten either. They have not.
And how about the crowd in Oakland cheering on opening night when Carlos Correa got hit in the elbow?
That was also amazing. Very, very good to see. If there's one thing we don't appreciate in the nation's pastime, it is cheaters. I don't know if you guys would agree, but that's one of the things that irks me, and I'm glad that people haven't forgotten, and I hope they don't forget for a long time.
See, here's my thing. I was as frustrated as any baseball fan with the Astros cheating scandal. However, I'm going to be honest, I'm not actually that upset about the situation anymore. I kind of moved on from the situation.
Even though that Altuve may have stolen an MVP from your guy?
Here's my thing. I think that the Astros have already faced enough punishment. I think they've faced enough humiliation. And, my thing is that I'm not mad anymore about the situation because, number one, yes, I'm a forgiving person, but also I just don't think that it's as important of an issue to dwell on right now because they're playing clean baseball right now.
That's fair.
I understand now that fans are back, they can do things like this. I have no problem with what Angel and Athletic fans were doing. I have no problem with that. My thing is, I just don't think it's really worth throwing at them anymore.
Very well said. That's going to conclude our news around the league segment here on this week's edition of Nation's Pastime in the Nation's Capital. You're listening right here on WCUA Radio. Once again, that number to call in if you ever want to is 202-319-5106. 202-319-5106. This is a great time as well to take a moment to tell you to follow our Twitter page, as we say every week. That is at @PastimeCap. And you're going to see all the links to the shows posted up there. There's a complete archive of every show we've ever done, which is very cool if you want to see some past episodes. And it's overall just a good place to be, guys, I would say. So go ahead and follow that Twitter if you haven't already. That's at @PastimeCap. And that'll bring us to our next segment that I like to call Performance of the Week. We talk about players who are good for an entire week or an entire month, but I want to highlight the best of the best when it comes to single-game performances that are just absolutely absurdly good. So to open up this segment, I'm going to ask you, James, who had a single-game performance this week that was unbelievable to you?
Last Saturday night, Corbin Burns and Jose Barrios dueling no-hitters, both into the seventh inning in Milwaukee. I think that has to be the performance of the week. Corbin Burns did end up giving up a hit in the seventh. He gave up a moonshot to Byron Buxton, but he had a phenomenal night. He went 6 1/3. That was the only hit he gave up, and he struck out 11. And Barrios got pulled after 6, so he left with the no-hitter intact, struck out 12, didn't walk anyone. And it was one of the best pitching performances from both sides that I had seen in quite a long time. It was two complete aces going at it, mixing in all their stuff, keeping hitters completely off balance, especially this early in the season. It's rare to see two premier pitchers both in midseason form, but they were trading blow for blow, and it was really fun to watch.
Absolutely agree. Very cool to see there when I checked the at-bat app and I saw no-hitter alert, and I was like, oh, looks like Barrios is having a good night, and then I'm sorry, they're both having a good night. They both could throw a no-hitter, so very cool to see from both of them there.
Can I give one more for the week?
Absolutely.
I got to give a shout-out to both Christian Vasquez and J.D. Martinez. Obviously, J.D. Martinez, very rough 2020, but in 2021, he's opened up the season with an extra base hit in 7 consecutive games, joining only A-Rod and Griffey, and I believe Babe Ruth on that list. He's in very elite company. He's bounced back from a very down 2020, and he is hitting .433 right now with 9 extra base hits and 2 home runs. And another guy, Christian Vasquez, he is one of the best all-around catchers in baseball. Obviously, JT Realmuto is at the top, but in that second tier, Christian Vasquez is right there. His defense has always been on par, but offensively, he has put it together the last couple seasons, especially to start this year. He's hitting .458. He had 3 more hits today against Baltimore. Big game-tying home run on the 9th against Tuesday on Tampa's got 2 homers this year. I believe 7 extra base hits. He's really putting it together at the plate this year.
Yeah, I gotta say, a guy like Christian Vasquez to me was always a guy who was a backup, and then out of nowhere, he just hit like 25 home runs. The guy really came out of nowhere, and I don't know if he was a top prospect or anything, but he went from someone who wasn't even on my radar to, wow, this guy's a solid contributor.
He was one of our top prospects. Then he got Tommy John, came back. His offense really was behind his defense for 2 or 3 years, but he finally put it together in 19, had a really good 20, and then obviously this year, he could finally get his first All-Star nod, which would be very well-deserved for a guy like him.
It'll be very well-deserved. I think that would be fantastic for him. Robbie, let's hear what you got to say here. What is your favorite, or what you think was the best, performance of the week?
So, like you guys, I spoke about Yerman Mercedes, who started 8 for 8. But
yeah, that was an okay performance,
obviously we all had already spoken about that. Somebody else I want to give credit to is a Yankee, Garrett Cole. I don't know if you guys saw Garrett Cole. He has been absolutely filthy this year. The man was cooking 100 miles per hour, throwing it right down the middle, and players just could not hit it. There's a player, though, that I do want to talk about. I don't think that fans are talking about enough, and that's Julian Merryweather.
Oh,
do you guys know?
pick.
Yeah, you guys know about him.
Of course.
The Toronto Blue Jays closer shut the Yankees down on 10 pitches, struck out the side on opening day. Extra innings, runner on second base. The Yankees have their heart of the lineup up, and Julian Merryweather strikes DJ LeMahieu, Aaron Judge, Aaron Hicks, and Gleyber Torres, all out on 3 pitches, and then Torres put up a 4-pitch at bat. Julian Merryweather is disgusting. He is going to be one of the most underrated closers this season. The dude is an absolute talent, and he's so fun to watch.
And here's why that's so big is because, like we talked about last week when 2 weeks ago when Kirby Yates went down, we were like, oh, forget about the playoffs for the Blue Jays. But if this guy could step up and be an elite closer, that's a big piece they need.
He threw against the Yankees 2 times. And in both games that he faced us, he struck out the side. He hasn't given up a single hit or a single walk. The dude throws 99 miles per hour and then has one of the most disgusting changeups I've ever seen in my life. And hitters look so uncomfortable against him. They can't touch him.
Very good pick indeed. Julian Merryweather, if he can keep it up, would be huge for the Toronto Blue Jays, who play their first home series this weekend in Florida. So that'll be interesting to watch again. Hopefully they get across back the border for some of their home games so that their fans can see them. But for the time being, they're going to be playing their games in TD Ballpark in Dunedin, Florida. So my performance of the week, I got to give it to a guy from my home team as well, as the past 2 guys did for some of theirs, and that's Zach Wheeler. In case you're not aware, Zach Wheeler did it all on his start on Saturday. The guy looked like an absolute ace. 7 innings pitched, 10 strikeouts, no walks, 1 hit. Oh, and by the way, he was 2 for 3 with a double, a single, and 2 runs batted in. The guy helped himself. He got both those hits off of, we got the first one off Charlie Morton, another one off of, I believe it was Luke Jackson of the Atlanta Braves bullpen. And just talk about an old-fashioned baseball performance where the pitcher's doing it all. You love to see it, and I got to say, this is not going to be the topic of tonight's dugout discussion, but in the last year of what will potentially be pitchers batting, I want to see a lot more games like this from some National League pitchers. It's so fun to see.
I think another storyline this week, top pitchers not getting run support. Jacob deGrom, that was absolutely criminal what happened in Philly on Monday night. And Shane Bieber is 0-1, and he probably should be 1-0 or 2-0. Because the 3 runs that he gave up on opening day against Detroit happened in a blizzard.
Here's my problem, right? And I obviously watched that game that deGrom pitched. And the second he was taken out, I was jumping for joy because I knew we had a chance to win it, which we did end up winning. But if you're Luis Rojas, it's bad enough to take him out when you did. But I don't know if you're aware, before the game, he made an announcement that deGrom would be throwing 100 pitches. And then took him out at 77. And that guy was dealing. If he would have kept in that game, the Phillies were not winning that ball game. No team would have won that ball game. Jacob deGrom's the best pitcher on the planet.
The Mets
for some reason, they did. Yeah, go ahead.
Jacob's deGrom career has blown 31 games for him.
See, that's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous. You can't do that to a generational talent like him. And it was embarrassing because you go from Jacob deGrom, they brought in, oh man, I think it was Trevor Kelly who got some runners on. You bring in Aaron Loop, the first thing he does is hit a guy with the bases loaded. It was classic, I'm sorry to say it was classic Lowell Mets. It was. And you know what? They bounced back and they won the game the next day. They looked absolutely terrible in the series finale, losing 8-2. Their pitching was atrocious. But for a season where a lot of big things were expecting out of the Mets, and they did win today as well, I don't know, not a good start, especially in a bullpen that was supposed to be revamped.
Well, I also think some of that, they did have 4 days of just doing nothing because of the COVID thing. Like, they did have a week off, so obviously it's just a weird week. Like, once they get going, and obviously, they played 4 games in a row, they're going to start to look like the team that we all think they're going to be.
I agree as well. Look, they had a bad series, but I still do think the Mets are one of the most talented teams in the National League. I'm going to stand by it. I don't think the Braves are that good. I think they're maybe on paper slightly better than the Phillies. I think this past week showed it. And I'm going to say it on air. I think I am more afraid of the Mets than I am of the Atlanta Braves.
I don't think a lot of people are talking about this, but the Mets lost Dellin Betances today. Did you guys hear about that?
I got to tell you something. After watching Dellin Betances pitch in yesterday's game, I think that's a plus because he was not there.
No, but here's the thing. I don't think he's been healthy this season. I think he's been pitching through an injury.
He's
a free agent at the end of the year, and he knows he's got a lot of pressure on him because if he performs well, he could get a solid payday, and if he doesn't, then he's probably going to get a very small deal.
Talk about a guy who went from throwing 99 to 100 and thought was going to be an elite closer for years with the Yankees. He's topping out at like 93 now. It is sad to see.
He does not throw hard anymore. It's sad.
Well, the Mets' problem for the last 2 or 3 years has been their bullpen. So besides Diaz, who are you going to trust at the end of the game?
Do you even trust Diaz?
After last year, I do.
Right,
I think mechanically he fixed something last year. It looks like he's a lot more comfortable in New York. But besides that, they're going to have to go out and get someone for the end of games to bridge that gap from the starters to Diaz.
You don't think Aaron Loop's getting it done?
No.
Also, I don't think people are talking about this enough, but Trevor May's been really bad for them so far.
Very bad.
He's been really bad.
And they're giving him a lot of money.
They're giving him a lot of money. He blew the game again today.
Did he?
Yeah.
Well, they won that game today, but he did blow it.
Yeah.
You're right.
You want to talk about that call at the end of the game by Ron Kolpa?
I was going to mention that. That was terrible.
Let's talk about that.
I mean, look,
yeah.
I'm not going to fault Conforto for leaning in. Obviously, it's what you're taught to do as a hitter. But I mean, how is that not reviewable? But B, how do you just call that?
Yeah, in case you're not aware, that was a bases-loaded situation. I don't remember who the pitcher was, but a very, very close call. The umpire said that it grazed Conforto's right elbow. I don't know. It looked a little different on video. I'm not really sure if it did.
The pitch would have been a strike if he didn't lean into it.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, definitely an interesting end for the Mets game today. Although, hey, they got the W. That's all they care about. And I don't know, guys. Are we approaching more and more to the era of robot umps? Every day we get further into baseball, are we?
I saw a stat the other day that said that the other day in the Astros-Angels game, Angel Hernandez got 81% of the calls right.
Oh, the call that he missed against Alex Bregman, I don't remember what inning it was terrible. And then he missed one against Maldonado, too. That was just terrible. He is the worst umpire on the planet.
Angel Hernandez, what a name, Been around for a while, not exactly known for good things. And I think for good reason as well.
Vladdy Jr. just hit a bomb in Florida. First Blue Jays home run in Florida as the home team.
Yeah, I got to say, briefly before we move on to the next segment, I am expecting a monster year out of that young man. I think it's finally time we see what he's all about.
Oh, absolutely. The dude was destroying the Yankees the other day. This man could be an MVP contender this year. He could be.
Yeah.
I think the year that Vladdy is going to have this year is going to be less significant, but still similar to Bryce Harper's 2015. One of the most hyped prospects of this generation. Took a couple years to get the learning curve down in the league, but once he finally did, and Vladdy also lost 40 pounds this offseason. I mean, he knew what he had to do to get in shape, and he did, and I think he's going to put up a similar season to what Bryce Harper did in 2015 because we know how talented Vladdy is.
You know what? That's a bold take, and I love it. I would also love to see him do that. What a talented guy, and if he could get it all together and become a superstar, take it to the next level, it'd be great for the game. It really would.
Does anyone have any overreactions from the first week of baseball?
It's a good way to close out the
I
do have one.
Both good and bad.
I have a good overreaction.
Yeah.
Do you want to go first, Robbie?
You go first.
All right, so I don't. My overreaction is the Phillies bullpen is now the best in baseball, right, guys? I mean, come on. The first week, if we take out a young man named Vince Velasquez from that equation, they were pretty much perfect. Gave up maybe 2 or 3 runs. I mean, I'm watching games, and it's amazing because I'm not afraid when the starter comes out. We have a very solid bridge to Neris, who has looked very good so far. Alvarado, he's having a little bit of trouble with command, but he's gotten out of all the situations. Bradley looks great. Connor Brogdon, the first pitcher in baseball to get the 3 wins this year. Watch that name. He could be an elite closer by summer. So my very big overreaction, Phillies bullpen is not only fixed, it's going to be one of the best in baseball this year.
And my overreaction has something to do with the New York Yankees, and that's that their pitching is going to be one of the best in baseball. I read
all pitching or just starting?
All.
Okay.
All. I read a stat today that said that the Yankee pitchers have an ERA of 1.74 right now this season and 73 strikeouts through their first 6 games of the season. The 73 strikeouts are the most ever through 6 games in a season in Major League Baseball history. No team's ever done that. That's how good this Yankee pitching has been so far. Now, it's an overreaction because, let's be realistic, I don't anticipate Jordan Montgomery pitching as well as he did the other day, every single day. I don't think Darren O'Day is going to be as great as he's been so far. I don't think that Nick Nelson's going to be this great. You know, they have so many pieces I don't think are going to be as good as they're
You do not like
right now.
that guy.
Nick Nelson?
You don't like him.
You want him?
No, I don't want him. I'm just saying. We've talked
I have a story to tell you folks.
about who? Nick Nelson?
Nick Nelson.
All right, make it brief. Here we go.
So, opening day, Yankees versus Blue Jays. We go into extra innings. First inning, it goes pretty well. The second inning, Nick Nelson comes in, and before he throws a single pitch, I texted Andrew, we lost. And he said, why? I said, Nick Nelson's on the bump. 2 pitches in, he loses us the game. 2 pitches in.
Yeah. That's
What do you expect? Why, nobody can expect me to like this guy.
Well-
I don't want to hear anything about this guy.
Well, okay, so here's the thing, right? They did lose that game because it was in an extra inning game. And I don't want to cut James off here. Before I do the segue, do you have an overreaction? Because I do want to hear it, but this is a really good segue into our next discussion.
I don't know what, obviously it's only been 1 week of baseball, so I don't know how everything's going to play out when the competition levels out, but the Cincinnati Reds offense.
Oh, my
Ooh,
gosh.
man.
The Cincinnati Reds offense is here to stay. With the amount of power they're displaying, Nick Castellanos,
He's back.
Mike Moustakas, Nick Senzel finally living up to some of the hype. Hopefully he can keep it up and stay healthy. Jonathan India, their top prospect, second baseman,
How's the Punisher doing?
hit a bomb last night.
There you go. That could be a really good offense.
I know they played the Pirates, but I mean they did damage against the Cardinals this weekend.
they look
They did damage against the Cardinals, and Nick Castellanos should not get suspended for what happened. That's just baseball. But the Cincinnati Reds offense is going to put up numbers this year.
Do you think Yadier Molina should have been suspended?
Nobody should be suspended.
You don't think anybody should be
Nobody
suspended for that?
No, nothing happened. I agree with that.
I would
situation.
agree with that.
So yeah, that's gonna wrap it up for our performance of the week there. And like I said, a great segment is we're gonna talk a little bit about something relating to the extra innings. Before we do that, though, once again, this is Nation's Pastime and Nation's Capital here on WCUA Radio. Go ahead and call in if you want to discuss anything baseball related. That number's 202-319-5106. 202-319-5106. Gentlemen, we have our next segment here, dugout discussions. We're gonna take an issue that is, a talking issue or a controversial issue facing the MLB and baseball as a whole at the moment, and we're going to break it down and see what it's all about. And you know what? I think a good one to start off this segment for the first time ever. Actually, we're going to hold that for just a second because we got a caller live here on Nation's Pastime and Nation's Capital. We're going to take that in just a second. Hello, caller. You are on the air. What is your name? Sorry, could you go ahead and repeat that? Hello, caller. Having some problems hearing you.
Can you hear me now?
We can. How are you?
Okay, sweet. Yeah, I'm feeling really bad because of my car. But nah, good, man. I told you I was going to make the call in, and here I am now. And I don't know what the subject is right now, but I'm up to talk about whatever. So,
Travis, right now we're talking about the new extra inning rule. What do you think?
honestly, so I told a few of my friends the other day, I thought that it was just like an experimental thing for the 60-game season. And then lo and behold, I was watching the Red Sox the other day, and it was still going. And I hate it personally. And, like, I thought it was one of those things like last year, 2020, like that fake season, like, yeah, let's do it. I was surprised they brought it back this year, and I'm not really a fan of it at all. I just feel like it kind of cheapens the game in a way.
I think that's an excellent take. I mean, there's a lot of people who are not happy that it came back. And the biggest reason people were concerned is because this was pitched as a health and safety rule last year to make games go faster or something. I think a lot of people are wondering, how exactly does having a runner on second make the game healthier or safer?
Yeah, it doesn't really make any sense to me either. Because, I mean, it's just Manfred has been on this whole tangent, obviously, we know, since he's been commissioner about speeding up the games, even though, like, I just feel like that is one of the dumbest, like, reverse, like, I don't know, are there, like, legitimate baseball fans who complain that the games are too long?
No.
Or are there people who are going to become baseball fans because we shorten the game by 20 minutes? Like, I don't understand that argument, and since it's been a big subject of interest the last few years, and it seems like it's Rob Manfred almost arguing with himself.
Manfred has a made-up narrative in his head that the games take too long or people aren't watching, but the people that aren't watching aren't fans. Those aren't the people that you're going to attract to become fans. I think the rule, like, as I was watching the same Red Sox game the other night against Tampa Bay, I think the rule does provide some excitement, but ultimately, like, it doesn't speed up the game, because if both teams score a run, we're just going to keep going into extra innings. Like the Red Sox-Rays game went into the 12th inning. It's not like it's speeding up the game. It does provide more excitement, but his main thing about speeding up the game, it's not speeding up the game at all.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And like the whole basis of it makes no sense, where it's kind of like the same with shootouts in hockey, but I think that's been around so long that people just love it and are used to it now, where it's like we play the whole game one way, and then if extra innings, we just like throw a guy on second and kind of decide it based off these like unnatural decisions that are made and rules that exist for no logical explained reason. And I don't understand that. I'm not a fan of it. And you guys can answer this. They're not using it in the postseason, right?
No, they will be.
No, they will be using that in the playoffs.
Yeah, because they wouldn't play the season under one set of rules and then the postseason under a different. So they're going to bring that to the postseason as well.
Wow, I did not. Okay, y'all just taught me something there, and that makes it even more egregious to me, because it's one thing for the regular season, but then to be deciding a championship and playoff series with something like that, it's like I bring up shootouts in hockey again. They do shootouts in the regular season. They don't do shootouts in the playoffs. And I think if you're going to do the runner on second rule, that's fine. It's probably something we'd all get used to eventually, but I'm not down with it in the postseason.
Hey, Travis, before we let you go, I got a question there. It's about that shootout thing. The alternative that was being proposed when they were talking about what to do with extra innings for baseball was just having someone go up there and then do a home run derby once you get into extra innings. Do you think that's a better idea?
No, I think that's a horrible idea. I think that's even worse, personally. Like, I can't. I definitely can't get down with that.
Yeah, I think a lot of fans would agree with you there, and I think you did a good job describing in words what a lot of real baseball fans have been feeling the past year. Travis, thanks so much for calling in. We appreciate having you.
Yeah, man, no problem. Go Nats, go Sox. Good talking to y'all. I'll try to make more of a habit to call back more often.
Absolutely. We'd love to have you. Have a good night, Travis.
All right, take it easy, man.
You know, some excellent points brought up there by the caller, and I got to say, like I said to him before we hung up, I think he put into words exactly what a lot of us are wondering. Why are we have this false narrative, like James said, from Rob Manfred, that this game needs to be sped up and that's going to save the game and make people more interested in it? It doesn't make sense to me.
No, and I don't think it really means anything. Rob Manfred has played a very dangerous game if you think about it, because right now Rob Manfred is not bringing in new viewers, and what he is doing actually is he's losing some of baseball's current viewers, which I think is very dangerous itself.
And also, in-person attendance has decreased in 5 of the 6 years that Manfred has been commissioner.
I think that's telling.
Yeah,
I really do.
But going back to the extra inning rule, I will say that it does provide more excitement because obviously you do start with the runner on second, and I think it plays to guys being more situational. You know, obviously, like as we get later to extra innings in regular games, you see guys just swinging for the fences trying to end it with a solo homer. But with the guy starting on second, they'll be more focused on hitting the ball to the right side, butting him over, just trying to get a single to get the guy in. So I think that aspect of it is good because it makes guys just wake up and play more situational. But overall, it's an element to the game that hasn't been there, and now that it's there, yes, it adds more excitement, but it doesn't speed up the game. Like the Red Sox-Rays game, every time the Rays scored, the Red Sox scored, and every time the Rays didn't score, the Red Sox didn't score until the 12th inning. So it's not like this is something that'll end the games in 10 or 11. Like, you know, I think it's something that they're going to have to take into the new CBA, obviously with the universal DH, among other things. The 3-batter rule will probably be brought up again. And they're going to really have to deliberate. I think that's going to be one of the main talking points this upcoming offseason, and we're going to see what the Players Union thinks about it and whether they really want to incorporate it into the next 10 years of baseball or not.
You know, a thought like on what you said there about its successes and its positives. I believe it was Jack Fritz of 94 WIP this weekend who I was listening to, and he made a good point, similar to yours, James, is that, he felt like he was watching. He felt like when he was watching baseball this past weekend, when those extra innings happened, that it was just exciting. He said, my heart was pounding and I was nervous immediately once again. And he's like, I want that feeling more in baseball. And that's a fair take because I agree. Now when we get into extra innings, I dread it because I'm like, this is, I just hate it. I really do. But he's got a good point. I'm completely nervous the entire time, and I think it does add a layer of excitement to the game that maybe wasn't there for, I'm going to say, some people before, because personally I love ridiculously long extra inning games, but I guess some people don't like that. And according to our wonderful King Manfred, that's the case with everyone. So
and maybe I like the rule better right now because the Red Sox did win that game, so I have a better spin on it. But I agree that I was nervous the whole time because you just never know that one pitch that could lead to it. Because a wild pitch could get him to third, then all you need is a sac fly to get him in. So it really adds a different element, and there are positives to it. But overall, it just changes the dynamic completely.
Well, then let's get to the opinion of someone who maybe has been burned by the extra inning rule a couple times in the past weeks. And I want to preface this segment before I ask Robbie here by asking him if he was aware of what the Yankees fans were chanting during last night's game in the extra innings. Are you aware of what was going on there at Yankee Stadium?
Was it Fire Manfred?
No, it was not Fire Manfred, although that may have been said. What I read was it was reported that all the fans were chanting, "Play real baseball," once they got into those extra innings. So obviously not a lot of happy fans in New York. They've lost 2 extra inning games in their first 7, I believe. Maybe 6? What are we at? In their first 6.
Well, if Glaber made a routine throw last night, they would not have lost that game.
We're not going to talk about that, of course. But I do want to ask you, Robbie, thoughts on not only the extra inning rule, but something that James brought up. Do you think that this is going to be something that's here to stay, given the new CBA coming up?
See, I understand what James is saying when he says that he finds it exciting and puts him on the edge of his seat, because quite frankly, it does put people on the edge of their seat. However, I thought extra innings was perfect before the new rule came in. I thought with the old rules, I thought that was exciting itself. And as for what's going to happen in the future, I really hope and pray that this doesn't happen, that this doesn't continue on, because this is horrible for baseball.
Why is it horrible for baseball, do you think?
Because a base hit loses the game for people. The Yankees several times. The Yankees are 5-4 since this has been implemented in baseball. The Yankees have gotten 2 straight outs several times. They'll give a little knock, and rather than having a runner on first with 2 outs, they're down and they're losing in the game. That's my problem.
But they get that same chance the next half inning. It's not like it's something that they don't get.
No, but what I'm saying is, as a Yankee fan, I'm frustrated. This has happened over and over and over again. When you get 2 consecutive outs, and then a little bloop single scores a run, and then we lose, that's what's frustrating. Now, fans clearly aren't appreciating the new extra inning rule because viewership is going way down. That's my problem with the extra inning rule.
I think it's very fair takes, and it seems like overall a lot of us here at Nation's Pastime in the Nation's Capital are not exactly the biggest fans of the runner on second to start extra innings. Caller also brought up a great point about the playoffs as well. I mean, and I like thinking about baseball from a historical perspective because I'm just really into the history and the statistics and the records and all that. Looking at it from a perspective of that, how many just... I don't know. It's just I feel like there's always differences between the different eras of baseball, but it just feels weird to compare games that are won, not only, by the way, by this rule, but games that are won in 7-inning double headers. The other one that is just so hard for me to accept.
I understood that last year. I really did, especially with wanting to keep, like, that is actually a health and safety thing if you want to keep guys out of the clubhouse.
But that being back this year, though.
No. I agree that it shouldn't be back this year. Like, last year, you want to speed everything up. Also, you're playing the 60 games in 2 months with pretty much no off days. You want to lay off the wear and tear. I get all that. But bringing it back this year, I don't know. Like, maybe they think because, like, the teams that, we obviously saw an outbreak with the Nationals, maybe they still think outbreaks will occur. So, the grave situations that we do play doubleheaders, teams will be shorthanded like the Nationals actually were yesterday against Atlanta. Maybe we'll see more of that, so that could be it. But I don't really like it, and I hope it doesn't stay past this year. One more thing I want to add about the extra inning change, the extra inning runner on second. I know a lot of people are talking about how they're upset that baseball is changing, right? And, that's completely understandable because baseball hasn't fundamentally changed their rules in, almost 100 years. But the NBA, they added the three-point line in 1979. Look what it's done to the game. Look how it's transformed it. Nobody's complaining about it now. The NFL added the two-point conversion in 1994, going for 2, and then they moved the extra point back in 2016, and look how much excitement that brings now because teams now consider going for 2 if their kicker is cold or if they're trying to win the game instead of risking an extra point. And lastly, the NHL didn't add shootouts until 2005. and now look at in the regular season we accept it, and now it's exciting. So like this could be something that grows on baseball fans and people find exciting, and it just becomes universally accepted as part of the game. Change isn't always a bad thing, and right now we may not like it, but in the future we may come to grow and really accept it as part of the game.
I think that's also inevitable to happen as you have, if this is to be the case, an entire generation of fans who just grow up with it as normal. It eventually will just be integrated into the game, and people won't think any different.
I also think that you have to look at the fan bases of these sports. That's my thing. A lot of the NBA viewership and fan base is coming from the younger generation. These are people who are being introduced to the game. So they're being introduced to the three-point shot. A majority of baseball's fan base, though, is people who are older typically, or people who have grown up watching the game traditionally, and they're not as accepting to new changes as NBA or NFL fans are.
I would agree with that as well. A lot of baseball fans are purists, and they like the rules to stay as they are, so it's going to be hard for them to accept.
But if they want to attract that younger audience, they might want to do something that brings more excitement.
No, James, you don't understand. If we want to attract the younger audience, we have to make games an hour and a half. That's the only solution. You don't understand.
You see, I don't think that shortening the game does really much with getting the younger audience's attention. I personally think that you want to look at things like home runs. I think you want to look at things like guys throwing 100 miles an hour, and that's what's going on right now.
We have a good amount of them going on right now.
Exactly. And I think that baseball is heading in the right direction with the amount of home runs that were being seen last year. I mean, last year they've never seen that many home runs in a season. Well, per game, home runs per game.
Yeah.
I think that was the most that we've ever seen in baseball. I think that's the kind of thing that young fans want to see. They want to see guys who can hit the ball 485 feet. They want to see guys that can throw 100 miles per hour. I don't think that they're as worried about the longevity of the game because they clearly like NFL games, and NFL games are also very long.
Yeah, no, I think they're all valid points, especially what James said about just about change not always being a bad thing. Right now, everyone hates it. Everyone's a fan of baseball hates it. I guess not everyone. That's not fair to say. There's some people who do like it, but it might be the case where eventually this just turns into something that is accepted by not only MLB fan base, but the newer ones who will be joining it as well. And I think that's a good wrap-up for our dugout discussion there for the week. And just to close off the show here in the last couple minutes, I got to ask you guys, over the past week, now that we know that the All-Star Game is in Colorado, give me the number one guy that you absolutely need to see in the Home Run Derby at Coors Field this year, because you know it's going to be a show.
James, you want to go first?
No. I got to...
Fair. Yeah, that's fair. Go ahead, Robbie.
Off the top of my head, I want to see Vladimir Guerrero Jr. again.
That would be good. He put on a good show in Cleveland, and I would love to see him in Coors Field.
Him? Sorry. Actually, no, James, you can go.
Joey Gallo.
I
knew the name would come to my head at some point. I was just trying to think. It's got to be Joey Gallo. I mean, he's probably got the most raw power in the game, and when you talk about light tower power, he absolutely has light tower power. And he just hits bomb after bomb after bomb that go 450 feet.
By the way, so most home run derbies have a fan favorite, a player from their team.
Yes.
Who from the Rockies do you think would be in it? You think Trevor Story will be in it, or are we looking?
It's going to have to be Story.
It's going to be Trevor.
You think?
I don't think they're going to do
it?
like McMahon or someone like that.
That's what I'm saying. You think he'll do it?
Oh, I think he'll do it, but he's also one of the top 5 shortstops in the game. Like he'll make the All-Star team. It's not.
Oh, absolutely.
I also want to point out that Trevor Story is going to make this All-Star team, represent his team in the game, and then going to be traded a couple days after.
For sure, just like Machado with Baltimore.
Yeah, but the thing is, that was not in Baltimore. That was in Washington.
Was in DC. Yeah.
This guy's going to play from his home fans. It's going to be great. They're all going to love him, and then he's going to be traded a couple days later. And you know what? I don't know. I just think that that's kind of hilarious. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but let's be honest. It's probably going to happen.
Who's your guy?
My guy for the Home Run Derby? Return of the King, coming for his second title. It's going to be Giancarlo Stanton.
I was thinking about saying him or Gallo, but I was like, I'll go with the newcomer.
I
figured someone was going to say Stanton.
I know this guy next to me does not want Stanton in the Home Run Derby, but look, he's a Yankee. I couldn't give less of a crap. I want to see this guy hit bombs in Coors Field.
Guys, to close up real quick, what performance, both by an individual and a team, do you think is here to stay, and what performance do you think is a downward trend that is going to go bad for the rest of the year?
That's a good question.
I want to give one shout out before I forget. How about the week for Nate Lowe? 14 RBIs. He's going off. He's finally found a home in Texas. Like, I forgot that for the performers of the week. Like, he definitely deserves to
good for him,
get a shout out. Yeah,
especially on a Texas team that just doesn't have too much exciting going on. He's a good piece to watch. So your question was, you want to know teams' performances that are here to stay and ones that are flukes and are going to be changed?
Yeah, or you could do players.
Look,
or you could do each.
I'm doubling down. The Atlanta Braves are not going to have a good year. They have and let me rephrase that. They're not going to have a bad year. They have a lot of talent in that lineup. I think people are underestimating how bad that bullpen actually is, and I don't think they're making the playoffs. I don't think they're that good of a team. I will die on this hill. I really don't think the Braves are doing any damage this year. Their reign of terror on the NL East has ended. Robbie, you got a take?
Yeah. So, a player that I think is going to continue this hot run, Cedric Mullins of the Baltimore Orioles.
Cedric Mullins.
I believe that he could be a solid piece at the trade deadline. I think he's a guy that hits for average, and he's a fast runner. A guy who I don't think is going to continue playing this well, Jake Arrieta. He's performed really well so far. I don't think he's going to continue this.
Hey, apparently all he needed was to get back in a Cubs uniform, and now he's an all-star again.
Another guy, Andrew, you're not going to like this.
All right, here we go.
Another guy who I don't think is going to continue this hot streak.
Lay it on me.
Connor Brogdon.
Connor Brogdon.
He's not.
Leave my guy alone.
No, I don't want to hear it. He's not going to perform this well the entire season. We got to get to James, by the way.
Go ahead, get to James, but I just got to say, leave my guy Connor Brogdon alone.
He's not going to see. No, he's not going to be that good the whole season.
James, who you got?
Okay, first of all, do you have Connor Brogdon end up profiling as their closer at some point?
He will be their closer by September.
You're going to be disappointed.
Okay, let me put it this way. If Neris is somehow the best reliever in baseball all of a sudden, then fine, he'll close. But he's going to be back into the bullpen by September. This guy is an elite closer. He showed what he could do in the short time last year. He's here to stay for a long time.
All right, I will stick with the Braves. I'm going to do a player. Freddie Freeman will get back on track. I
hope so.
He's off to a slow start. He has the home run against Scherzer. I think that might be that. I think he only has 2 or 3 hits on the year.
Yeah, he didn't get a single hit against the Phillies in the opening series.
No, and I know the Scherzer home run was his first hit, and I don't think he had a great doubleheader yesterday. But he'll get back on track. I think that's fine. I think a team that is going to. I think another player, Garrett Whitlock, Rule 5 pick for the Red Sox out of the bullpen, former New York Yankee. He's looked great in his 2 outings. I think he's going to solidify himself in the back end for the Red Sox and really solidify himself not only for the Sox but as one of the better back end relievers in the game. He's got great stuff, and I think the role that he can carve out for himself can be really valuable both for him this year and going forward. I think a team whose performance won't last the Cincinnati Reds. They're in first place right now, but I think we know that division belongs to the Cardinals and the Brewers, and I think a team that will turn it around, honestly, or a team that will look better and be sneaky good, Kansas City. They're 3-2 right now. Their offense can do a lot. Whit Merrifield, he's hit for early pop this year.
He's got 4 home runs already, hasn't he?
Jorge Soler damages baseballs for a living. Benintendi, I think Kansas City is a really good fit for him. Carlos Santana, that offense is going to be sneaky good, and I think they're going to be pesky this year, be around 75 to 80 wins and give some teams some trouble. So I think they're here to stay. Not in the playoff hunt, but as a sneaky good team and really showing good promise for next year.
Absolutely. One final thing I want to shout out before we end this show, guys. How about Shohei Ohtani starting a game and then hitting a home run in the bottom of the inning? That's something you'd love to see.
Unreal.
Absolutely unreal. That guy is very talented, and he should be good to go to start again pretty soon, right? Even though he had that problem.
Yeah, I think he'll be starting on Sunday. I think he's going to start every Sunday.
That's good to hear. I'm very glad to see that. And especially with a talent like him, you don't want him getting hurt. That's some fun baseball.
Any bold predictions for the week ahead before we sign off?
Bold prediction for the week ahead. I'm going to say that by the end of the week, somebody's going to be mad at me here. The Atlanta Braves are going to be in last place by the end of the week. Any other bold takes before we wrap it up here?
I want to hear James's bold take before we get to mine.
All right. I think that I still think by the end of next week, Nolan Arenado will be the home run leader. He just took the lead right now, and I think his hot start is going to continue.
All right, very bold. One more from Robbie, and we'll close it out here. Unless it's a little too bold, I can see you're got the smile on your face here.
All right.
This is going to be a classic Robbie Cruz hot take here.
A classic Rob. What does that mean? A classic Robbie Cruz take. What does that mean?
I think it means I have already purchased a 2019 Yankees World Series shirt.
Here's my bold take.
Go ahead.
Mets take 3 out of 4 against the Phillies.
Okay.
And then this is the point of the season where Andrew starts to slam the table, he starts to yell at the TV, and he starts to get really upset.
These claims are neither confirmed nor denied, and
I have video proof.
And I do not appreciate the accusations being thrown around here at the end of this edition of Nation's Pastime and Nation's Capital. That's going to be all the time we have for you. Thank you all so much for tuning in. We'll be live again, like I said, next week. Not Thursday. We're going to be live Wednesday, a little after 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time until 8. Be sure to tune in there. Once again, follow our Twitter. That's at @NatPastimeCap for all of our shows archived on there. And other than that, this has been Nation's Pastime and Nation's Capital on WCUA Radio, and have a fantastic rest of your evening.